Hi, and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at the ETS EC125 sander from Festool. This sander is really supposed to be a finish sander. I don't use it in just a finishing capacity. When you pay, over $400 for a sander plus whatever you paid for your dust extractor, it's got to serve more than one purpose in my shop. So I use it for pretty much everything from 80 grit all the way to 320, and it works great in all of that. It's a little smaller than some of the other sanders, but it works just as well in my opinion, and it does a great job with finishing too, but I use it for everything. This sander has great dust collection. I've only ever used it with a Festool dust extractor. I assume it would work the same with other brands. But I just have a cheaper Festool dust extractor. I have the CT MIDI, and that's just a smaller dust collector. By no means is anything Festool cheap, but it's one of their cheaper dust collectors, and I've also liked using that. But if you don't have a dust collector, you pretty much have to buy one if you want this sander, because it doesn't blow any of the dust out. It just kind of waits for a dust collector to pick it up. It's made to be used with a dust extractor. The dust collecting itself works great, I think. I don't know if it works quite as well as Mirka's system. Mirka has sanding discs that are like mesh pretty much, and air can get sucked in everywhere on the whole piece of sandpaper. Festool just has the regular type sandpaper with the holes, and so it gets rid of a lot of it. I won't say that it gets rid of all of the dust. Whenever you're doing a finishing project and you're down to the end, I always take a piece of tack cloth and wipe everything off really well. You can blow it out too if you have an air compressor, but I always just wipe it off with tack cloth. And there is always a bit of dust left, especially the fine dust. So it's not going to pick up every piece of dust, but it is going to keep it out of the air. There's not going to be hardly any on the piece that you're working on, and I'm pretty happy with that, honestly. It does take a little bit of time to get used to if you aren't coming from a sander with dust collection. Normally you would just have a light power cord running off yours. This has the light power cord, but it also has the dust collection hose. And having those two things running off the back of the machine did take me a little bit of time to get used to, especially just to not put pressure straight down on the machine to try and hold up the hose and cord and stuff. It's really best to stop the idea of trying to hold the piece with your hand and sand with your other hand. It's best to clamp the piece down and then hold the hose with one hand and the sander with the other hand. And then it feels just like a regular sander. You can control the weight of the hose with your other hand, and you don't have to put so much pressure straight down on the sander, which produces much better results as far as your work pieces go. One of my main concerns when I bought this sander was the sandpaper costs, because of course Festool, everything is expensive. So the sandpaper is also fairly expensive, but I've been really pleasantly surprised. Festool sandpaper is extremely robust, and it really lasts a long time. This sander has a variable speed control, and so that's just a dial that's on the side, and you can roll that up to 6 or down to 1, and there is quite a bit of difference in the speed between the two. Mine is generally set between 4 and 5. Some people say you need to be sanding at 2 or 3 on the finish part of it, and I don't really follow that. I just go by eye, and it seems like around 4 or 5 works good for about everything. If I really want to remove stuff fast, I'll turn it up to 6, but it doesn't seem like it makes a huge amount of difference in the quality of whatever you're sanding. It also has a brake built in, which is super nice, and I've never had that before on a sander. You press the button and within just a second it shuts off and isn't moving anymore, which I guess I didn't think would be a feature that I would really love to have. After 3 or 4 years of using it, I use it a ton, and it's awesome to be able to just hit the button and be able to set your sander down on the table next to your workpiece and it not move. Not you don't have to wait for it. That is a feature that's really nice, and it's definitely saved me time over the years. Festool has a variety of different pads that you can put on these sanders, and I always buy the softest one that I can get. I think they have a firm, medium, soft, and then a super soft, and this is the softest version, and I have always liked it. I think the super soft ones do wear out slightly faster than some of the other ones. This is my second pad that I'm on, but it works great, and I always want the softest one because I want to be able to kind of be able to bend that surface a bit to get to get around corners or into a place that maybe isn't totally flat. But like I said, I have gone through two of them, and this one is starting to wear out too. You can see where I've kind of melted some pieces. As much as people say, don't ever set the sander on the edge to sand anything, I don't think there's a woodworker alive who has not done that before, and I'm no exception. So yeah, it can handle it, but just be aware that you're gonna have to replace these once in a while. But after 3 or 4 years, I mean, as much work as I've done, I totally expect that. I think they're around 40 bucks, something like that for a new one. So not a huge cost, and then you get a nice brand new flat pad. Just like every other Festool product, this sander comes in a sustainer, and some people make a big deal about these sustainers. I'm not one of them. You get this plastic box. It has a latch that you can lift up, and mine actually is just full of random tools that I need to take someplace, or random little bits of something. If I have a job and I want to take some tools, I often will take this box because it's just an easy box. It has a nice handle on the top, so it's actually turned into more of a toolbox than anything else. And I don't really use the sustainers. I don't go out on location very often to do a job, so yeah, most of the time it just sits in my shop, and if I need to go someplace, I generally don't put the sander in there anyway. So would I buy this sander again? I definitely would. It really has lived up to how Festool presents it. I think in the description it says something about that it can run for multiple shifts in a production environment, and I believe that to be the case. I've used it hundreds, if not thousands of hours on all different kinds of projects, and it has always worked flawlessly for me. The buttons, the dials, the pad, the sanding pans, I really have no complaints with any of that. Even the sanding pad cost is just not nearly what I thought it would be. So yeah, I have been really happy with this sander. Of course, I can't speak to if Mirka or another brand is a better sander, but I know that this sander has been used hard, not abused, but it's definitely been used, and it has really performed flawlessly for me. When I spend $400+ on a sander, my expectations are pretty high, and this sander has totally met those. Now, is this sander, or a sander at this caliber, gonna make every piece that you have swirl free, and perfect? No, I don't believe that's true. I think that you have to have good technique plus a good sander to really achieve those really nice results. And things like not putting pressure straight down on it, not putting at least a lot of pressure straight down on it, and using that two-handed method to hold the hose and hold the sander at the same time really helps with that, and you can control how much pressure you're putting down. I know at times, you sanding for an hour or 2 hours and you want to get some piece done. I think it's really important to be patient while you're sanding and to just keep the sander as flat as possible most of the time. So if you're in the market for a professional level sander, I think this one from Festool is pretty hard to beat, especially if you want to put in long days, hard use. I know this sander can withstand that, and that's really awesome. It can also kind of just be your one sander. You don't need a finish sander and a rough sander. It can do both jobs, even though it's kind of marketed as a finish sander. I've been really impressed with the quality of this tool from Festool and been really happy with my purchase overall. So I think it's a great sander. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time.